Are you looking to hire an SDR, an appointment setter for your business? If so, these are the 5 biggest things that you need to consider before you even make a hire.
You've got the social proof, you've got the product market fit, you know how to use it to market yourself, you got the great website, whatever, you've sent some emails. Now you want to hire a sales team, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, what I find a lot of companies, they read predictable revenue. They look at Salesforce and like, okay, we need to have SDRs. We need to have people closing the deals, and we have to have people that are fulfilling on those deals, right? What makes sense to your business, right? Don't just hire salespeople because that's what you think works. And headcount isn't always the answer, right? Headcount is very expensive. You have salaries, you have training, you have interviewing, you have 401ks, you have health benefits. People quit, right?
Yeah, churning, attrition.
Lower like business development and lower sales has like a 9-month average runway. So you're going to spend all this time finding the right person. You're going to take your sales leader's time and energy away from closing business and running the team to hiring these people and hands-on training them. So you want to make sure that it's advantageous with your company to spend all this time, energy, and resources and salary to hire someone who's junior, just for them to leave, right? So when I've worked with sales teams and how I've hired and trained is you want to make sure that the person themselves doesn't just say what you want to hear, right? Genuinely understand what their goals are as a human being, right? Like, what do you see yourself doing 12 months, 24 months from now? If they don't see themselves like in this same exact role, they might not be a good fit because they might just jump ship and continue to try to just build the corporate ladder through different businesses. So back to the main point is like when to hire, right? So you have the total addressable market, you have the product market fit, people are organically possibly coming to your website and inbounding, they have the interest, so you understand that your product does work. Then it might be time to hire an SDR. There's 2 different SDRs or BDRs, whatever you want to call them. So you can do a commission only where they don't make a base salary, so it's advantageous for the company. But if you're doing that, you also have to give up a larger piece of the revenue because they don't have a salary, right? It's a stressful job on their end. They don't know when their next money is coming. So before you hire someone who's commission only, make sure your product works, right? Don't just get free labor for 6 months if you're not able to close a deal. That's going to reflect badly on your company. People aren't going to want to work with you. And then the second is salary. So paying someone a base salary plus commission to generate opportunities for your business. So that's the 2 different types of ways that you can hire. How to find them. So you can put, a LinkedIn or Indeed or job posting out there, but that's going to take a lot of time, a lot of energy, and a lot of resources to vet those individuals. Reach out to your connections, right? Like, have you turned away hires, or are people who try to work for your company not ready for them? Like, use your network and leverage other companies to find talent. I'm not sure if you've had any experience with hiring, even like a VA or an SDR, but the best ones that I've hired have come from referrals.
Yeah. So honestly, it's funny. The best SDR I ever hired, I actually found her from I'm not kidding, a Snapchat story that was asking it wasn't even like my professional network. This was just my friends. And actually 3 of the best SDRs I ever hired came from, one of them came from Facebook, and another one came from, I knew a internship coordinator at the local college. Now, it can be kind of tricky posting those internship type deals with local colleges. Some of them are still in school and such. So in my experience, it was pretty difficult. But if you landed a top talent that was still in college and you were willing to wait a few months for them to really get out and hit the ground running, it wound up paying off big time. Because usually those types, they're gonna make it big time pretty quickly once they get out of college if they are really that talented. The other thing I would say is that in my experience, an A player is worth 5 or 10 B players.
Yep.
So it's worth it investing the time on the front end to make sure that you've actually got a good process for identifying the good candidates. And the other thing is, you may have to go through some pretty quickly, like try and make the process faster to actually get them into the role.
Hire fast, fire fast.
Yeah, and especially in sales. I mean, it's just it's part of the thing. Like you have to make sure you're setting them up for success, yes, but
And what I look for is like, are they teachable?
Yeah.
Right? Like understanding your product. Like they come into an interview and like, oh yeah, I saw you did this testimonial. They just went to your website, right? So actually understanding if the person is going to be easy to teach, right? Like you said, like very high performers, this is a low level role, right? So some people may be overqualified and that's going to make them leave faster, right? They think they're above this work. So make sure that the person that you're hiring is aligned with what it is that the title actually calls for. Like being an SDR is a grind. So someone has to be mentally prepared to do this for 12 months. Ask them that question, right? Like disqualify them on the interview. Don't wait to find this out 3 months in. They're like, oh yeah, I'm looking for a promotion in 3 more months, where it's just not feasible at the company. So we really boil it down to 3 A's. So it's going to be activity, it's going to be attitude, and then it's going to be aptitude. So understanding, is this person intelligent enough to learn something, and then also have the mentality to do the activity that it's going to require to do an entry-level sales job. It's a lot of cold calling, it's a lot of cold emailing, and a lot of it comes down to mindset. So making sure that you are setting those like KPIs correctly, so they know exactly, if I do this, then this will happen, and giving them kind of a North Star where like they want to be promoted. Obviously, no one wants to be an SDR for life. So giving them clear KPIs, and don't move the goalposts. That's going to be the easiest way to, lose talent, is if they do crush their first 3 months, don't be like, let's give you another 6 months just because they're so good at their job. Like, don't discredit people for being good at their job. Promote.
Yeah, one of my favorite hacks, I guess you would call it, for vetting a candidate, even just at the beginning of the interview, was I would send them some technical type documents about our company, about our services, that I would say, and just in case you wanted to learn more about our company before the interview, here's some documents, no obligation to read them or anything. I know it's a lot, right? A person who is high in conscientiousness, for those of you who are fans of psychology, the Big Five is a fairly standard model of psychometrics that is used by very highly qualified clinical psychologists, the guys that actually need to know how to get it right, how to really truly evaluate a person, right, in a measurable, predictable way. And so one of the metrics they use is conscientiousness, which is, if I put this person in a room with a TV and a book, are they going to watch the TV or are they going to study the book? The conscientious person will sit there watching the TV and go, oh, I feel I need to be doing something. And then they'll go read the book, right? If you give a conscientious person all these materials to read up on your company, they are going to show up to that interview having read it, clearly focused on it, right? And so then you can just say, what was your favorite thing from the materials? Or you can just say, yeah, did you catch that part about the data center decommissioning? Would you have any feedback or any parts that you liked in particular? And pays laser focus attention to their face when you say this, because if there's hesitation, if they give you a vague answer, okay, they didn't read it. And yeah, maybe they're nervous, but at the same time, they're going to get put on the spot. And another thing I liked to do to tease out who were the sharks was, I would say, okay, just, to close our call here, could you pretend that I'm a prospect, and just, can you close me can you just try and pitch me our product or service? And then you hit them with objections, and you just, and if it's a person who gets anxiety on the phone, if they're lacking confidence, what have you, they're kind of afraid to push, put themselves out there, they're going to hesitate. They're going to avoid it. They don't like that discomfort. And so a shark, on the other hand, he's going to go, chance to prove myself. Oh yeah. And then he's going to hustle. He's going to grind on you. Right. So
don't worry what they say.
No, just that they try,
and their attitude towards the role play. Like, they may say the wrong things. Like, those are things that you could easily teach. So just look for like actual core human metrics, and like understand like, how are they approaching the situation? Are they eager? Are they like resentment? Because they could have the most knowledge on your product, be the most knowledgeable salesperson, but if an objection comes along on the phone, they're not going to know how to navigate it and even portray the knowledge that they do have. So those are the things that you want to look for in an entry-level salesperson, is like tenaciousness, asking questions no matter what, exhausting the contact, because everyone's going to give you pushback. That's just human nature. And it's understanding how to think on your feet, be quick in navigating and then retaking the frame on that sales call is really what you're looking for in an entry-level salesperson. All the other things like understanding the technology, understanding the service, those are all things that's on the company and the owner to teach them, but you can't teach the actual human aspect of somebody.
Two final things on this that I had forgotten about. So one of my favorite strategies to find really great salespeople was I would dedicate a good portion of the discovery, the intro, the vetting process to just trying to have a conversation with them about not just work, right? And I would tell them about my family or something like that, and I would ask them about theirs. I'd ask them about things they like to do, and I would actually just try and have a rapport building conversation without telling them that this is what I was. And if they took a genuine interest in me, if I liked talking to them, they were enjoyable and pleasant to talk to.
They listened.
Yeah. And then, some of them would follow up with me and say, it was great talking about jazz. Be like, hired right there, right then and there. And the other thing is, so let's say you make them role play and they say one thing that seems off. I've had situations where I asked them, hey, why did you pitch it that way? And the thing they pitched sounded ridiculous and it didn't make any sense. But when I asked them why they did it, their thought process was actually really clever. So sometimes you don't want to take things at face value, like you had said earlier, but to actually ask them, why did you say it that way? If they know why they did it, you can tell, oh, this is a tactical thinker. This is a person who's thinking outside the box, which isn't always necessary, but sometimes somebody you would have disqualified. Maybe they're still in the running now. So that's I guess a nice summary of the sales hiring, vetting process. But
well, Jimmy, one thing I did want to touch on.
Sure.
So you may have the best talent, you may find the right person in the interviewing stage. That's probably 40 to 50% of the battle, right? The other 50% falls on the company's shoulders. So you have to understand that you have the correct training, right? Setting them up for success. Now that you know that they have the innate ability to be good on the phones, navigate conversations, and be inquisitive, now it's your job to give them the correct tools for them to use those skills in a way that generates revenue for the business. So understanding that each person can't be managed in the same way. Some people need to be micromanaged. Some people absolutely can't stand being micromanaged. Me.
Yeah.
So understanding who it is on your team, and Jeremy has a great point, like have conversations with people, learn about them, take a genuine interest in their family, their hobbies, their interests. They're going to be much more, I guess, like, even if it's a slower process, like, oh, I actually like my manager. I actually like the business. I like the objective here, then maybe I'll take a little bit more time or energy than I would somewhere I didn't like, where they'll stay on and you can retain them more. So understanding how they like to be managed. Best way to do that, ask them, right? Don't just assume that someone, don't just assume that someone can be managed this way, right? We work from home, everyone's remote after the pandemic. So like understand if this person can actually be autonomous and just do what they need to do. You don't have to then spend a bunch of energy and resources on that individual, but don't just assume that they'll get their stuff done, right? Like understanding, and we're going to go right into this, right? Is tracking and metrics. But a big part of a successful sales team is treating them like people, understanding what makes them tick and what's going to get the most out of that individual. And that could be totally different from the other person sitting right next to them. So it's your job as a manager or as an owner or a business executive to understand who it is on your team, right? That's going to give the easiest way to scale is with humans. So understanding the humans that are on your team is going to make you the most successful.
Yeah. So would you rather have a drill sergeant or a coach?
A coach.
Yeah.
Some people do need a drill sergeant in certain situations. That's why, the best army in the world, but
your coach can be assertive,
Yeah.
Coach can put on the drill sergeant hat, but
and it's know what hat to wear at what time is the most important thing.
But so, you may have to ask the question, is there anything I can do to make your life better, to make your time here with us more enjoyable? You may have to ask that question 100 times before they actually tell you, because one, they're afraid to disappoint you. 2, they don't want to seem ungrateful. 3, they're afraid that, it'll reflect poorly on them, whatever. And so, if it's a regular thing, you'll get them to come out of their shell sometimes. And the reason this is so important that we're harping on this is people don't quit jobs, they quit managers, they quit their boss. So I can count off every single job I ever quit. I honestly, it was because of the manager. It was not because of the job. And so if they love the manager, I know so many people who stay in terrible jobs that they don't like because they feel terrible about quitting because they love their manager. They don't want to let them down.
The culture.
So, I mean, people talk about culture all day long. They talk about all these different softwares and all these different metrics or whatever that'll help them build culture. It's like,
snacks.
Yeah, we're going to give them snacks at lunch. It's like,
that's not culture.
Yeah, let's do everything except actually humanize our employees, right? And treat them like humans. So anyways,
and especially if you're a smaller business, like having direct access to that part of your company is so beneficial. Like at a company with 1,000 people, the CEO doesn't talk to the people who are in the trenches. But if you're a smaller business, like 10, 20, 30, even like 40 or 50 employees, like you still have direct access to every little piece of your team. So get to know them, understand them, because you never know who's going to be like the next COO of your company or the next VP of sales who starts off as an SDR. But you would if you actually got to know each and every person. And from an individual who just started, like, wow, I just had a conversation with this CEO. So like understand the weight and the clout you have in your business and then use that to your advantage with humanizing your sales team.
Yeah, and I would argue, how Toyota is like this operations powerhouse, like company organization, they're just the best. So one of the concepts that they espouse in the Toyota way, well, they didn't, the guy who wrote the book, at least I don't think Toyota wrote the book. Anyways, it's been a long time, is the Gemba. So the place of work. So even if you're a CEO of a 500 person organization, I want you to go and stand at the assembly line. What did Elon Musk do? He goes, now maybe this is a controversial figure to bring up right now, but I don't really care. The guy slept in the factory, right? So why does he regularly visit and walk the lines and actually look? It's because you're gonna see things when you go into the trenches that you'll never see if you're managing from an Excel spreadsheet. If you're only taking the word of your managers. I run a marketing department. Do you know how much I skewed the information that I gave the CEO about different things? It's like even unintentionally.
It's like telephone.
Yeah, it's a game of telephone. You have to go directly into the department and go up the levels to figure out where do people have problems, where's their miscommunication. I promise you, you're going to find stuff at every single level if you stay long enough. So then it's just a cost benefit thing. But I wanted to rewind to the before we hire a salesperson step. So let's say that we bring on a salesperson and we do not have consistent lead flow, right? So we don't need to necessarily wait for a website to start generating leads, right? So this kind of goes into the whole, how do you validate product market fit? How do you ensure that your salespeople are going to have quality leads, that you can predictably scale those leads, right? So the last thing you want to have happen is that you bring on this closer and then you don't actually have enough people to book their calendar out, right? And so I would say that before you start bringing on a sales team, I would send out 100, 200 emails to a particular group and try 3 different subject lines, try 3 different variations, try 3 different angles on it and see if you can't book a couple meetings every 100 emails, right? If you can't book meetings from 100, 200 LinkedIn messages, 100, 200 emails.
How do you expect someone else to?
Who
doesn't know the product as well.
Yeah. And then beyond that, right? Like try and close some yourself. I mean, some of the best companies I know, before we brought on salespeople, the CEO was on the phone trying to close the call. And once we had done that, we had all the stuff thrown at us, right? We've predictably gotten the lead flow. Then when we brought on the salespeople, they were much more successful than when we just tried to bring on 4 or 5 people and just say, all right, we're just going to 5X our outreach now. It's just,
Yeah, more is not always better. When I was an SDR, my SDR manager never was an SDR before.
Oh,
so we didn't I remember his name, Josh. So
sorry, Josh. Very under the bus.
We were like, if Josh got on the phones, would he even be able to book the deal? So why am I going to ask him like technical questions, right? So earn the respect of your sales team that I've done it. I've put in the hours and it does work. So it's proof of concept for the rest of the team that you do hire down the road. Like, I've done this. If you just do this, then it will work, right? So yeah, I thought it was self-explanatory, but thank you, Jeremy, that you definitely have to have sales and meetings to necessitate, and only hire when it becomes too much. Like, if you have 20 sales calls every week and that's taken away from the business, it's probably time to hire a salesperson, right? To take some of that, show that some of that load. And if you even lose deals, you're still gaining time back into the business. So don't even worry about the beginning, like, we would have closed that deal if I did it. That's the whole point of scaling a business, right? Is relinquishing some of the power, and then trusting in the people that you hire.
Yeah, are they gonna close as well as you? Probably not.
Not yet.
I know some CEOs who 100% will be outclassed by a good salesperson selling their own product. I've worked with several. Mr. CEO, you may not be as good at selling your thing as you think you are. I'm sorry to tell you, but I'd say maybe half the time. You should have given up control of sales a long time ago. I know you don't want to pay them the commission, but just think about how much your time has value for all the other areas of the business, for you to be working on the business, not in the business.
Yeah.
I know you don't want to pay out that commission, but you got to do it. And the other thing is, when you're doing all this selling, Mr. CEO, I would really try and put together some kind of script, like figure out, are you following some kind of pattern with these sales calls? Every time you answer an objection, I want you to write down what they asked, what objection they gave you, and then your answer to it. And then when you do bring on the sales team, okay, now look, now you have every objection they've ever asked me. Okay, just read this like 10 times. I'm going to quiz you on it. Cool. All right, now you're ready. And then they can refer to it. And actually, one of the things that was funny was I saw a guy who actually used that FAQ during the sales call as if to say, yeah, I know all your objections. I've gone through every single one of them, baby. We have everyone here. There's all 4 scenarios. You think you're unique? You're not. So, and then the prospect sees that and they're like, okay, they've worked with people like me before, right? You don't need to be all like sassy about it or anything. It's just so.
And the CEOs who build the software are not good at sales because they're so feature focused, because that's like their baby. Like, they talk so much about them,
the features and them and how they built it. And
yeah, so in that situation, like, that's where you should be hiring sales early if you're very benefit and feature focused, because at the end of the day, no one cares that you built this software or you built this company. Like, all they care about is what it is that you built does for them and what problems do you help solve and alleviate in their business or in their life. So if you build the software, you probably might not be the best at sales. So maybe hire someone.
No offense, I can't build your software. I did 2 years of computer science.
Yeah.
I realized very quickly within a couple of years, like, I'm not even going to be able to beat the 12-year-old Russian kid who's trying to get into our network. Like, there's no chance. So
a master of all is a master of none.
Yeah,
it's very true.
And it's not to say that there are not any technical founders that are good salespeople. Just, you're probably not if you're a technical founder. Just in our combined experience across a wide range.